Have you ever met someone and instantly felt like you could trust them, only to discover later that they were nothing like the person you imagined? Or maybe you've walked away from a conversation thinking everything went great, only to realize the other person wasn't interested at all. Here's the surprising part. Most of us don't miss the truth because people are great at hiding it. We miss it because we're looking in the wrong place. We focus on words, but the human brain has been reading body language for thousands of years, long before language even existed. Every crossed foot, every subtle shift of the shoulders, every genuine smile, or fake one, can reveal clues about what someone is really feeling. Now, before we go any further, here's something that might surprise you. If you're hoping to learn a magic trick that lets you instantly tell who's lying, who's attracted to you, or who's secretly judging you, you're going to be disappointed. Because that's not how body language works. Real experts don't jump to conclusions based on one movement. They look for patterns, context, and clusters of behaviors. That's exactly what you're going to learn today. By the end of this video, you'll start noticing things that most people completely overlook, and once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. In fact, before this video ends, I'm going to share one body language habit that almost everyone misinterprets, and it changes the way you'll look at every conversation from now on. So, stay with me, because each sign builds on the one before it, and the last lesson ties everything together in a way that most people never realize. Let's start with the biggest mistake almost everyone makes when trying to read people. Imagine you're sitting across from someone during a job interview. Halfway through the conversation, they cross their arms. Instantly, your brain whispers, "They're defensive." But are they? Maybe the room is cold. Maybe the chair doesn't have armrests. Maybe that's simply how they always sit. This is why professionals never rely on a single gesture. One signal alone is almost meaningless. Think of body language like putting together a puzzle. One piece tells you almost nothing. But when enough pieces fit together, the picture becomes impossible to ignore. Let's say someone crosses their arms, avoids eye contact, angles their body toward the exit, and gives short, clipped answers. Now you're looking at a completely different story. It's the combination that matters. Your brain naturally searches for shortcuts, but the truth is that people are incredibly complex. The best observers stay curious instead of making quick judgments. That's your first lesson today. Don't hunt for single signs, look for patterns. Once you understand that rule, everything else becomes much easier to read. Now let's talk about confidence, because truly confident people rarely look the way Hollywood portrays them. Most people imagine confidence as loud voices, huge gestures, and dominating the room. But genuine confidence is usually much quieter. Picture someone walking into a meeting. They don't rush. They don't constantly adjust their clothes. Their shoulders stay relaxed, their movements are smooth, and they take up space naturally without trying to prove anything. That's because confidence reduces unnecessary movement. The brain isn't wasting energy worrying about how it's being judged. On the other hand, someone who feels insecure often moves too much. They adjust their watch, fix their sleeves, tap their fingers, bounce their knee, or constantly touch their face. These actions aren't signs of weakness. They're often the body's way of releasing nervous energy. And here's something fascinating. Confident people also pause before speaking. Most of us rush to fill silence because silence feels uncomfortable, but someone who's genuinely comfortable with themselves isn't afraid of a brief pause. They think before they answer. They don't feel pressured to impress everyone in the room. That's one reason calm leaders often seem more powerful than loud ones. Their body communicates certainty long before they say a single word. But confidence has a close cousin that often gets mistaken for it: dominance. Dominant people tend to invade personal space, interrupt conversations, and use exaggerated gestures to command attention. Confident people, by contrast, don't need to prove they're important. They naturally make others feel comfortable instead of intimidated. That's a difference worth remembering because many people confuse arrogance with confidence when they're actually opposites. The more secure someone is, the less they usually need to show it off. Now let's flip the script and talk about nervousness, because this is where the body becomes incredibly honest. Think back to the last time you had to give a presentation, go on a first date, or wait for important news. Chances are your body reacted before your mind fully processed what was happening. Maybe your leg bounced without you noticing. Maybe your hands felt colder than usual. Maybe you swallowed more often or kept rubbing your palms together. These are called self-soothing behaviors. They're small actions your nervous system uses to reduce stress. One of the most common is touching the neck. The neck contains sensitive nerves, and lightly rubbing that area can temporarily create a calming effect. Another common behavior is rubbing your hands together or repeatedly touching your face. But remember the rule you learned earlier. One gesture means almost nothing. If someone touches their neck once, it doesn't automatically mean they're anxious. But if you notice rapid blinking, shallow breathing, restless feet, repeated self-touching, and constant scanning of the room all happening together, you're starting to see a much clearer picture. Our feet, surprisingly, are one of the most honest parts of the body because we pay so little attention to controlling them. Even when someone forces a smile, their feet often reveal where they really want to go. If both feet are pointed toward you during a conversation, that's generally a positive sign of engagement. But if their feet are already angled toward the door while the rest of their body faces you, their subconscious may already be preparing to leave, even if they're still smiling and nodding. It's one of those tiny details that most people never notice, yet once you start paying attention, you'll see it almost everywhere. And that's just the beginning. In the next part, we're going to uncover the surprising difference between fake and genuine smiles, why your eyes reveal more than your words ever can, and the subtle body language signs that can tell you when someone feels comfortable, uncomfortable, interested, or emotionally disconnected, without them saying a single word. One of the easiest ways to tell whether an emotion is real or simply being performed is by watching the eyes instead of the mouth. Most people spend their entire lives looking at smiles, but very few actually know what a genuine smile looks like. A real smile, often called a Duchenne smile, doesn't just lift the corners of the mouth. It activates the muscles around the eyes, creating tiny wrinkles that are incredibly difficult to fake. That's why you've probably seen customer service employees, celebrities on red carpets, or politicians during interviews smiling perfectly with their mouths while their eyes seem completely disconnected. It isn't necessarily because they're being dishonest. Sometimes they're simply being polite. The important lesson here is that social smiles and genuine emotional smiles are two very different things. The next time you're talking to someone, don't immediately focus on their grin. Watch what happens around their eyes. Do their cheeks naturally lift? Does the expression appear smoothly and fade naturally, or does it suddenly switch on and off like flipping a light switch? Real emotions usually flow. Fake emotions often feel rehearsed. And speaking of rehearsed behavior, have you ever noticed that when two close friends are talking, they sometimes seem to move almost like mirrors of each other? One crosses a leg, and a few moments later the other does the same. One leans forward, then the other unconsciously follows. This phenomenon is called mirroring, and it's one of the strongest signs that two people feel comfortable with one another. We naturally imitate people we like, respect, or emotionally connect with because our brains are wired for social bonding. You can see it between best friends, couples, family members, and even complete strangers who quickly build rapport. But here's the mistake many people make. They think mirroring automatically means romantic attraction. Not at all. It simply suggests comfort and connection. Attraction may be one possibility, but friendship, admiration, and trust can produce exactly the same behavior. Context is everything. Now imagine you're having a conversation and the other person slowly starts leaning closer. Their feet remain pointed towards you. Their torso stays open instead of turning away. They maintain relaxed eye contact without staring. Individually, none of these signs prove anything. Together, however, they often suggest genuine engagement. The body tends to move toward what interests it and away from what makes it uncomfortable. That's one of the simplest principles in body language. We lean into curiosity, excitement, and connection, while we create distance from stress, fear, or boredom. Sometimes that distance is obvious, like taking a physical step backward. Other times, it's much more subtle. A person may place a coffee cup, backpack, laptop, or even folded arms between themselves and another person. Psychologists sometimes call these barrier behaviors because the brain instinctively creates a protective boundary when it. Not feeling completely at ease doesn't necessarily mean someone dislikes you. They may simply be stressed, overwhelmed, distracted, or lost in their own thoughts. That's why body language should always be interpreted with empathy instead of quick assumptions. One of the biggest secrets is to compare a person's current behavior with their normal behavior, not with everyone else's. If someone who is usually energetic suddenly becomes quiet or avoids eye contact, that change is often more meaningful than any single gesture. Speaking of eye contact, one of the biggest myths is that looking away means someone is lying. In reality, people look away while thinking, remembering, feeling nervous, or processing emotions, and skilled liars can maintain steady eye contact. Instead of relying on one sign, look for a combination of body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, and overall behavior. Another useful clue is body orientation. Where a person's shoulders and feet are pointing often reveals where their attention really is. The more you observe these small patterns in everyday life, the better you'll become at understanding people. Remember, body language doesn't reveal absolute truth. It only gives clues. The best observers stay patient, look for patterns instead of single gestures, and focus on understanding people rather than judging them. If this video helped you understand people a little better, do me a quick favor, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. We post new videos every week to help you read people smarter and communicate with confidence. See you in the next one.